Yep, it's another day. And we are going to do some research. We're going to dig in because big Tupac fan. Coming from where we come from, we can admit that we all was at some point, fans of the Bad Boy record label too. We could be honest. We ain't gotta lie. We was kids. A lot of us was kids back then, so we ain't gotta be feeling bad or nothing. You were a child. You're naturally gonna love these people and what they do just off the rip because they come in with the fancy cars. Man, you a little 6-year-old, 5-year-old, 7-year-old, whatever, 9, 10. It don't matter. You a kid and you see these people and they doing it big and they get flashy. They got all the nice stuff and they got the lifestyle, the desirable lifestyle that's pushed by the overall media. Yeah. So being that they got that type of lifestyle that's pushed by Hollywood and everybody grow up, watching movies, you grew up watching BET. If you want little black kids like me and you see BET as a kid, you can't come up off that channel. The minute you see BET, you're gonna go crazy like, oh man, everything on BET was I didn't miss a beat. I'm just being honest. When I was a kid and I see BET, I didn't miss a beat. Rare Diamond. I know it's true. You know it's true, sis. We didn't miss a beat. It was just like watching Urkel, all these shows. It was regular. We went to school and talk about these shows every other day. Fresh Prince of Bel Air, Will Smith. We didn't know Will Smith was a queer. We ain't know nothing about Will Smith being a bisexual or a swinger or none of that stuff. We was just watching the shows. And just like anybody else, we become fans of these people because of these shows they in, and it's a good show. So don't feel bad whenever you know what I'm saying, you find yourself watching this stuff as a kid and you were fans and now you grow up, you have to overstand a lot of these people was never straight. So we're gonna dig in right now, you know what I'm saying? This conversation has been all over the internet, but we about to do our own version, you know what I'm saying? It's all over, right? Real popular. Yeah? Well, let's do our own version of this.
Eccentric, and I'm a Scorpio.
Sean Diddy Combs under investigation for sex trafficking after bombshell civil suits accuse him of sexual assault. But it's not the only time Sean Combs' name has come up when it comes to major crimes, even murder. We take a look at the cases that have almost landed Diddy in hot water up until now. Thanks for joining me for Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Sean Combs is a bit of a chameleon. He's always changing. He's been Puffy, the record producer and founder of Bad Boy Records. Then he morphed into an entrepreneur with his own Sean John clothing line, a line of fragrances with Estee Lauder, and he's even partnered in ventures involving bottled water and vodka. But behind all of that glitz and glamour, there have always been allegations about Combs having a dark side. Back in 1999, Combs was arrested for a shooting at a nightclub in Manhattan. His then-girlfriend Jennifer Lopez was with him and put in cuffs for hours. Combs and his bodyguard were charged, but acquitted at trial. Only rapper Jamal Shine Barrow was convicted and served time for the shooting. Victim Natanya Rubin was shot in the nose and told News Nation that it was not Shine, but Sean Combs who shot her that night.
I said it immediately. I literally watched them pull out the guns. I had a clear point of view. I mean, for God's sake, I got shot in my nose. I was facing them directly. I watched everything occur and had described it, vehemently to all parties involved.
Again, that was back in 1999. But Combs' name also came up many, many times in an incident 3 years earlier, in 1996 in Las Vegas, thousands of miles from New York, when Tupac Shakur was murdered. Combs wasn't in Vegas that night, but a man who claimed he knew Combs, who then went by Puffy, was. His name was Dwayne Keefe D. Davis. Keefe D is now charged with ordering Tupac Shakur's murder. Keefe D told the cops years ago that Combs offered $1 million to anyone willing to kill Tupac Shakur and Death Row Records CEO Suge Knight. It's important to note that Sean Combs has never ever been charged in connection to Tupac Shakur's death, but his name came up many times in the grand jury testimony that led to Keefe D being charged. A witness testified that Keefe D and his nephew, Orlando Anderson, were in charge of the relationship between their gang, the Southside Compton Crips, and Bad Boy Records. Death Row Records was connected to the Bloods. The night that Tupac Shakur was killed, a witness testified that Eric Zip Martin, an associate of Sean Combs, gave Keefe D the gun the night that Tupac was shot. Joining me to discuss Sean Combs's prior history and brushes with the law are two people who know a lot about it. The first is Tim Jansen. He's a former federal prosecutor, and also Derek Parker. He's a retired New York Police Department detective, also the original hip-hop cop and author of the book Notorious C.O.P. So thanks to both of you for coming on. Derek, I'll start with you on this. Is this whole sex trafficking thing, is this the chickens coming home to roost as far as Sean Combs is concerned?
Well, yes, there's a lot of allegations that have come out recently with these civil lawsuits about his involvement with some possible sex trafficking. So that's been very, very in the news. It's been newsworthy lately. So yes, it is something that's being looked into.
Derek, take me back to that night in 1999 when we had the shooting at the nightclub in Manhattan. You were part of the group of police officers who took Sean Combs into custody. Tell me what happened.
When I got to the Midtown North Precinct, it was a lot of people out, a lot of cops. As soon as I walked in, all the attorneys applauded me. They said, finally, somebody with brains is here. So I had talked to the attorneys and told them, listen, I just got here. The chief told me I was in charge, but he was a higher rank than I was. And I said, I'm going to try to situate everybody because I knew they had attorneys, so their right to counsel was already there. They couldn't be questioned by us or anyone. So I took Puffy, my partner took J-Lo, and we put them in cars, and we took them back to the Midtown South precinct because that was the precinct of occurrence where Club New York was. Now, while I was there, I talked to the detectives that were going to have the case, and the biggest concern was Sean Combs the shooter? Did he have any involvement in this, the shooting of the woman in the club, and possibly several other people that might have got injured? Shine was definitely there. He was Jamal Barrow, that's his name. He was caught with the gun coming out of the club by the uniform officers. He was arrested on the spot, so he was brought to the precinct as well. While we were there at the Midtown South Precinct, we were told by the DA's office, because we had to notify them, that Matt McDonough, who was the DA in charge, he didn't want anybody spoken to or questioned until he got there, and then he would deal with the attorneys. And then we took it from there.
To this day, the victim in that case says that Sean Combs is the one who shot her, that it was not Shine who shot her. What is your response to that?
Well, I can only tell you what I remember. I remember that night there was a lot of things going on. There was a lot of police brass around, a lot of detectives. And basically we had several people that had to be interviewed or spoken to. She was one of them. I do remember something about glass fragments hitting her. Nothing about a bullet hitting her in the face. I mean, I didn't do the overall interview of her because there were several other witnesses, and then I had to deal with Diddy and then J-Lo. So there were the detectives that were in the Midtown South squad. They were pretty much conducting the interviews because that was their precinct. So they were taking over mostly of that. But she had said something about him shooting, but I don't remember totally about Puff had a gun. That's what I don't remember.
Tim, what is your feeling on the sex trafficking allegations? Because we've had these civil suits that started being filed last year. Somewhere around November or so. The first one was by Cassie, and that kind of opened up the floodgates. Others followed, including one by Little Rod, a man claiming he had been sexually assaulted by Sean Combs and even another actor, a really famous actor, Cuba Gooding Jr. Is this all, do you think this investigation stems solely from these allegations, or do you think there's just been this cloud of suspicion around Sean?
Yo, Cuba Gooding Jr. What the what the, yo, what is Cuba Gooding Jr. doing hanging around with Puffy, mixing up and all this? You know, I don't know, and I don't really care. Tell you the truth, bro. I think it's a lot more people involved. If Cuba Gooding, like, bro, that's so weird to me. It's like some weirdo shit going. That Hollywood, I always was suspect of that Hollywood stuff, and now I know I'm right, bro. Now I know for a fact I'm right. For all the last 10 years, I've been getting confirmed, confirmed, confirmed. Hollywood is trash. All that money, all the power, it's all trash over there. It's all going down. You hear me?
On Combs for so long, and then we finally got some court documents that outlined something concrete, and the feds were like, you know what, it's time, we got to move on this guy, because there's always been some smoke around Puffy, not to, no pun intended, but there's always been something going on with this guy, despite the glitz and the glamour and the Sean John and the white party on Long Island and all of that.
Well, the civil suits give you like a guide map. Before you have these crimes that have occurred, and somehow witnesses don't come forward or testimony is lost, and there's never enough evidence to prove it. Now you have these civil suits. And if these civil suits would have been settled privately before the lawsuits would have been filed, there may not have been enough information for the feds to get their attention and to go after them. But now you have witnesses and you have affidavits. You have people filing civil suits, meaning they're signing affidavits. This is what happened to me. It's probably consistent with what they thought for years. And now they have actual witnesses they can interview. And I think they took that information in those lawsuits and they used that to get the probable cause for the search warrants. Because now remember, these witnesses are saying what happened to them. They need to get in there and see if the layout of the house is exactly what they say. They want to go in there and get any digital video. They want to get confirmation that on these dates, the rooms look like this. They're getting evidence. And it seems like at least the Southern District of New York, a federal judge has authorized probable cause that crimes have been committed and that the crime evidence is going to be found in those locations. Judges don't give search warrants, and these are high-profile cases. And they went in heavy, okay? They were expecting guns, and they didn't know what they expect, but they went in heavy with manpower to get the evidence and search.
And it appeared from what TMZ was reporting, they had some exclusive photographs and things like that hard drives, electronic devices were seized. Of course, that would contain evidence. And, there was some allegations by Little Rod that there were video cameras all over the place, possibly recording people in these sex acts, like that this was like an Epstein 2.0 situation. Obviously, Sean Combs is saying he didn't do anything wrong. But that's the allegation, Tim.
Well, the important thing is not only do they have, it'd be great if they could find the videos, which I doubt, but if they can find the recording devices in each room, that would be consistent and that would corroborate the information from their witnesses. If they can show that there was cameras in each room, that would help their case in bringing charges against, and it would give the credibility of the witnesses who filed these civil suits. There's an allegation that he gets these wealthy people in the rooms, they engage in either drugs or sex, pedophilic acts, and then they have them recorded, and then they blackmail. That's what the allegation, that's what the rumor is. I don't know if it's true, but if they can find recording devices in each room, that would go a long way to giving some corroboration to these witnesses.
Do you ultimately see, with all of this hoopla, surrounding the execution of these warrants, Tim, do you see a charge coming? Obviously, they went in there looking for evidence to corroborate the allegations. You have to have evidence. You can't just have somebody's word. So do we just wait and see what comes of the search warrant, or do you see them eventually filing some type of charge? And what would the timeline be for that?
Well, they're not going to go against Sean Combs, who's got plenty of money to have really good lawyers. They're not going to rush to a charge. The feds don't have to rush to a charge. They have the ability to pick and choose who they charge, what they charge. Homeland Security does most of the sex trafficking. So if they can prove, there's some elements they have to prove, that a minor was being shipped there or transported there for the sole purposes of engaging in sexual activity, and that Sean Combs in some way furthered that act to occur. Or did he benefit in some way? Did he blackmail people for it to occur? Did he gain financial benefit from it? There's a whole list of charges that could be filed. They arrested a small, I guess they call him his mule, his drug mule, 25-year-old. They arrested him on the scene with drugs. So you can rest assured that they are meeting with him, trying to get him to flip and cooperate.
The world can be an incredibly scary place. There are predators everywhere, and they can look like the person next door. They can even be rich and famous and appear harmless. You have to do whatever you can do to keep yourself and your family safe. Truthfinder.com can help you do that. Truthfinder is a website that allows you to search public records for any red flags that will help you get information about the people you encounter in your life each day. Log on to Truthfinder and search a name. You'll get a person's address, past and current, any possible criminal records results, and even traffic tickets. Maybe you want to search a neighbor, a possible new friend, or someone who's going to look after your kids. Or maybe it's just someone you met out at the gym or an art class or a yoga class. Truthfinder will even show you sex offender statuses for people living in your neighborhood. The cases I cover make it clear you cannot take too many steps to keep yourself and your kids safe. If you'd like to check out Truthfinder, and I think you should, you can get 50% off of confidential background reports. Just log on to www.truthfinder.com/LCCrimeFix and start accessing information about almost anyone. I want to turn now to another case that has been in the headlines now for almost 30 years, the murder of Tupac Shakur. And last year, after 27 years, there was an arrest in Tupac Shakur's murder. Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, this is a case I've covered really extensively. Dwayne Keefe D. Davis was arrested and charged in Las Vegas for ordering the murder of Tupac Shakur and ordering his nephew, Orlando Anderson, to shoot and kill Tupac Shakur. And, Suge Knight was driving the car, so, possibly killing both of them. And there's always been this talk, Derek, that by Keefe D. and others, that Sean Combs wanted Tupac and Suge dead. It was part of the East Coast, West Coast rivalry, and that Sean Combs possibly was offering as much as $1 million for somebody to take them out. You kind of looked into this, so tell us what your feelings are on Keefe D's claims.
Well, I was out in Las Vegas when this after the homicide occurred. I was working with the Las Vegas PD on that investigation. For what I remember, what I know is that I know that there was the East Coast, West Coast rift because I had to explain to the hierarchy here in New York about the Bad Boy with Bad Boy versus Death Row, about how this whole thing started. What happens is that Orlando Anderson went out and he was in the car with 3 other people. All those 3 people are dead that were in the car with him. Right. So none of them were around. Keefe D was the only guy that was left, and he wasn't supposedly the actual shooter. He was in the car. So he gave up information incriminating himself on Vlad TV and other social media outposts where he was saying that he was there, he knew about the car, he knew about the shooting. Now, there was a problem with Puff, or Diddy, Sean Combs, as we say, and Death Row Records with Suge Knight. There was a total beef with them because of the shooting that happened in Atlanta with Jake Robles when he got killed, when one of Puffy's guys killed one of Suge's guys. So that beef stemmed from back then. But there was always this indication that Puffy paid or had money put up with another individual who's dead, named Zip, to provide protection money. Now, the thing with Orlando Anderson happened spontaneously because that happened at the MGM. And when they got in the car, Orlando went after them because they had beat him up in the MGM casino in Las Vegas. So that's where that stemmed from. Now, everybody is saying there's a lot of different things about people saying, well, there was money paid for this, money paid for that. There was an allegation that money was put up for protection money. And the protection money might have included maybe the possible assassination of Suge or Tupac. So that's still up in the air. Nobody could really corroborate that. It's been said, but it's still out there in the case.
The thing that's interesting about this is that Keefe D claims that Zip Martin, who was friendly with Sean Combs, gave him the gun to kill Tupac and Suge. So obviously it is still up in the air, but Sean Combs's name came up quite a bit in the grand jury testimony, Derek. There was Reggie Wright, who was the head of security for Death Row Records, talked about Sean Combs a lot, was outlining this East-West rivalry, this East Coast, West Coast thing that was going on. So it's still up in the air. But do you think it was maybe like one of those things where it was all talk? Or do you think that there might be something there?
No, there's some truth to it. Listen, I've talked to several. Listen, I was one of the first detectives out there on that shooting, on his homicide. And then the case went off. The Las Vegas. The problem you had in this case was that the Las Vegas PD and the Los Angeles PD and the Inglewood PD were at odds. There was corruption problems out in Los Angeles that stemmed from the Inglewood PD with Reggie Wright and his family. So there wasn't a lot of, I would say, cooperation between the departments. I mean, here it is for me coming out from New York, dealing with two departments was very difficult because, there was a lot of things that were going on back then. But some of the things that were said were probably true. They just can't be corroborated right now. I know Zip very well. I spoke with him. I had him arrested when he came in New York on another case. I had warrants on him. And I had contacted LAPD to come out to talk to him when I had him. And those guys, it was Fred Miller and I think the gentleman who wrote the book Labyrinth, I can't think of his name, Russell Poole. They wouldn't come out. And I had Zip for warrants and I had processed him through the system here in New York, but he would never talk to me. He said he couldn't snitch. He couldn't tell me what was really going on with that. And he kept that secret until his death.
Yeah, he died of cancer. So Zip Martin, you knew him. He just wouldn't talk.
That's correct.
So you're saying there's something to this, to the whole Sean Combs relationship?
There's a lot to it. It's just it has to be proven. It has to be proven. Zip was like the go-between for everything. And he's not here anymore. So you can't really corroborate what Keefe D is saying, even though it might have some credibility, but everybody in that car, people that were involved, were dead. I think after the shooting of Tupac and the shooting of Biggie, there were several wars that took place in Los Angeles where you had a lot of Crips and Bloods that were getting shot and killed. I don't know if you remember that. But
yeah, the 10-day war.
Deaths, there was a lot of homicides out there that happened as a result of these two gentlemen's deaths.
So Tim, what do you make of that? Derek is saying it has to be proven, but there is something to it. And we've only got Keefe D's word right now about this possible Sean Combs tie to the death of Tupac Shakur. So do you think that's something, because Sean Combs' name came up so often in the grand jury testimony, do you think that is something
I'll send you that
they are interested in, the prosecutors in Las Vegas? Because why else are we talking about Sean Combs in the grand jury testimony?
Well, of course, they got a witness in the grand jury. He doesn't have a lawyer in the grand jury, so he's got to answer questions. They're probably trying to get information from him so they can follow leads, called derivative use of it.
There ain't nothing like everything they're talking about did it. There's nothing like it's just I don't know. There is nobody standing up for him with any type of innocence. Like, it seemed like he don't even want to stand up for himself right now. Everybody went silent. He went quiet. We're not hearing nothing from Diddy right now, basically. So he's gonna let them lawyers talk for him. So it's obvious that he's so shook. He's so shook right now. He disappeared out of the limelight. He was just taking up all the limelight just for the last 10 years. Everybody that blow up, Diddy's right there. As soon as you blow up and you make it, or you got a hit song, Diddy's right there with you, hugging you up, jumping all over you. He riding Baby. He hugging all up on Baby. He all up on Lil Wayne. He was all up on Drake. He was all up on every damn body that got hot. As soon as they got hot, who was there? Diddy. Shaking, Harlem shaking beside him. Take that. So, it's just funny how things turn out, that as soon as some allegations come out, you can't stand up and be as bold as you were the whole time. Harlem shaking around everybody. Why ain't you Harlem shaking now, coming out like, take that, I ain't guilty. I ain't did none of that. Why you can't come out saying, Yeah, you can't come out and Harlem Shake and tell everybody you ain't did nothing. What's up with that, Diddy? Why you so quiet now? Why Jay-Z so quiet? Why Jay-Z ain't came out and said, nah, man, that's my boy. He ain't did nothing. He, it's crazy. 2036.
Yeah.
2036. But man, shit, them niggas probably won't even live to see that shit.
But she was on point about Diddy's time and everybody.
I mean, that's cool and everything. That's cool.
She even did a video on Bob Marley 3 years ago. Like, I just watched it yesterday, right?
That's
she
crazy.
Did it 3 years ago. She said there would be a movie coming out on called One Love, like a few years afterwards, and that shit really happened. And she made this video 3 years ago. I'm like, damn.
Their wig spread cheeks busted. Valiant Thor said, too many actors and rappers forcefully getting their wigs split and cheeks busted in Hollywood. It's getting out of control. They say they're getting their cheeks split, their wigs split, and their cheeks busted. And I don't know, bro. Like, I really don't know what's going up in there. I've never been in Hollywood, but from my observation, it's a boule like we all suspected, and Oprah is in there, Tyler Perry is in there, obviously Weinstein was in there. Weinstein gone to jail now, prison. I don't know if he's dead or alive. No, Epstein is the one that they said died. Weinstein in prison. I don't know if he's still alive. I don't know what's going on with him, but he definitely, obviously they were all friends, and all these people gathered because I see Oprah and Puffy, they friends. So Oprah and Diddy used to chill. For sure. Will Smith, yep, there you go. Will Smith is a part of it. The pastor dude, TD Jakes, is a part of the Boule circle. That's crazy. They got pastors up in there. They probably got a couple CIA members too. Shit, we probably just don't know their names. They got all type of people in that mix, so it's a big boule crowd. That's why everybody quiet. If you notice, there's a bunch of people right now that used to have a lot of and they used to be in the media talking a whole bunch of shit. They just been quiet lately. They all Diddy's friends. All of Diddy's friends are quiet. They knew what they were doing at them parties. Obviously, it's been going on for a while, and it's a fetish. What we gotta realize, people, these people normalize. We gotta realize what we're dealing with here. The reason why it's so strange to certain people is because they don't understand what's going on. They have never normalized these things that these people normalize. Hollywood people have normalized drinking blood. Walking around with blood packets to sip on a little bit of blood. I don't know what the hell. All type of weird stuff they have normalized over there. So I'm saying, people, enough things. So you go over there, it's gonna be like Weird Land. You ever watch one of them little college movies where them kids join that frat, and then to get inside of that little society or fraternity or whatever, them other kids is teabagging them, dropping their balls in their mouth, and they pissing in bottles, making them drink piss, and all type of weird shit. That's what goes down in Hollywood, people. It's a fraternity. Remember Jay-Z's song said it. It's a secret society. All we ask is trust. In a couple of watch your arms freeze up. Yeah. Hear what he said? It's a secret society. All they ask is trust. So they want to be able to trust you. And in order for them to trust you, you got to go in a room and get either fucked, or you got to fuck somebody on camera so they could have that shit of you. So that whenever you can never tell their secrets. And that's how they make sure you never tell. That's how they trust you, because they watched you get fucked, or watched you get screwed, or watched you get peed on, or there's sexual rituals that they do. They got certain sexual rituals that they do in Hollywood where they mix blood, cum, spit, and all type of different bodily what they call them, secrete, whatever you secrete. It could be sweat, blood, semen. There's rituals where they mix these things and actually give it to people to drink. So I don't know how true it is, people. I know it sounds crazy, but when you go over there, like I say, there's a lot of things that's normalized that you would never imagine. You would never even think about. That's why these people put out horror. You ever watch some of them horror movies that come out of Hollywood? You ever wonder who thinks about that type of psychopathic shit to put in a film? Who thinks about cutting people in pieces and pieces just to put it on film and show you that type of gore? It's psychopathic people. It's satanic people. It's demonic people. People who don't have no love for God. These people are pushing dark entities into the world. They have all type of different ways of pushing darkness into people's minds in order to capture people into their own. You know what I say? I've been telling people for a good while now, because I've been observing this thing for a minute, and pretty much Diddy is a small part of a big old wheel of Satanists and puppets, pedophiles, and yeah, he's just a small clog in the wheel. I'm telling you. And a lot of people looking at Puff, oh my God, Diddy ain't nothing but a damn pawn on the chessboard. But the reason why it's so hard for a lot of black people, especially the overstand that, is because they're looking at his money. They think, oh, you're a billionaire. He done made millions, hundreds of millions. You gotta understand, to white supremacy, hundreds of millions ain't nothing. To white super nasty, hundreds of millions of dollars ain't nothing. They wipe their ass with Diddy money. You gotta overstand. I know it sounds crazy, but they wipe their ass with Diddy money. Yeah, you over? Let me tell you what I mean when I say that. There's this Chinese billionaire. You can read up the story about him. Look it up. Chinese billionaire. He lost, I think he lost like 30 something billion at one time. It was a huge amount of loss. But when he lost them billions, he came down to having like about 300 and something $1 million. And he looked in his account and seen that, and he jumped out the damn skyscraper, killed himself. So what I'm trying to tell you here is there's people who have so much money on this planet that if they lose 3/4 of it, they probably kill themselves, because that's how tied they are to their business and their money. They're tied to it. Like, if they ain't got it, their life is over. In their brain, it's over for them. So Diddy is a small clog in this wheel of what we're dealing with in this system. You know what I mean? So people don't understand. Child traffic, sex trafficking is a worldwide business. You feel me? This is going on every country. USA, Mexico, Jamaica, Trinidad, every country you could think of, they're going into with their little trafficking rings, and they got 2 or 3 people they probably work within the country that try to kidnap or capture children so that they could run these sex trafficking rings and groom these little girls into whores and prostitutes and sell their bodies. You're talking about these French millionaires, billionaires, that's what they live off of. They live off of sex trafficking money. And they sit back in their mansions sipping all type of weird liquor and brandy, getting drunk, smoking cigars, and they collect big money off of selling people's bodies. See? And they've been doing that before Diddy even had a deal. So he just came into something that he probably fell in behind Clive Davis doing some stuff that he never imagined, and just got used to it. Because anybody could get used to living in shit. It's like a pig. Pigs get used to rolling in shit. The smell is normal to them. They get up every day, they're rolling shit. It's nothing. They're rolling shit every day. They get used to it. That's what happened to these rappers. That's what happened to these people in Hollywood. They get used to the rolling their shit. And eventually when it catches up to them, it's like, fuck. Because what they say, this guy's the fall guy. So that tell you that he's operating under certain people like Lucien, which is the head of Universal, Lucy. You know what I mean? You got, what's his face? Damn, Clive Davis. He was signed to Andre Harrell, but yeah, it's a lot of replacement going on, a lot of character replacement. But yeah, it's real. You know, it is real. Let's see here. Let's go in some more on this damn video. Hold on.
Gonna charge Sean Puffy Combs with
Cheek
murder.
Mills. I want to say feel bad for Cheek Mills, Pastor Jakes, Will Smith. They all got their wigs split.
Just on Keefe D alone. They got to have some evidence. And there probably is, right? That there is information and rumor and some pretty good sources that this was a hit. But they can't go forward just by what they think happened. And Keefe D is not going to be enough to convict Sean Puffy Combs. They need something more than that. As Derek said, most of the people that were involved in that shooting or in that car are all dead now. They're not available to be witnesses. So while they may be looking at it, maybe they want to build a RICO case, because it would maybe tag along with what the allegations are about the violence, sexual violence of black males, and show a history of violence that would make these people afraid, right?
Man, you hear this bunch of bull crap. about violence or blackmails. You see, Diddy is just being used. Even though he probably wrong in the situation, people, they're using Diddy as a blackface to hide their wickedness. That they damn being. Yo, if you really check it, people, every time you got like a white pedophile that get arrested or get caught up, they gotta find them a black one right after that to yeah, make it look like the white man is the pedophile. We gotta find us some black man that's screwing up. Oh, R. Kelly, he got girls in his closet. He's locking them up in there. Is that a goddamn lie? Up to this day, I believe R. Kelly, even though he's locked up for some shit, I believe he was, I'm saying, at fault a certain bullshit that he did because he should have been dealing with straight grown women. R. Kelly problem was he should have been dealing with grown women. Grown, sexy woman. That's it. And he had all the opportunity to just deal with those women. But Aura had a problem where he loved them young girls. I don't know what the heck it is. I don't know what his problem is, why he like them little girls when them grown woman is the sexiest woman you could ever have. Is grown woman, bro. Little girls is not even fully grown. They're not even filled out yet, bro. I don't know what it is with these men that like women that are not even filled all the way out yet, bro. I don't know what's up with the sickness of the mind. I don't know what happened to them. But, the grown woman, bro. Grown woman. That's all R. Kelly had to stick. He'd have been fine. Stick to grown. He could have had 10 one time. I don't give a damn. He could have had 20 grown women one time. He'd have probably been out here right now with them 20 women. But nah, R. Kelly want to go play with little girls. Man, them love the little girl, them, bro. That is their problem. The little children. Leave the fucking kids alone. Let them grow. Let them be. I realized that since I was a kid and I observed coming up, these people, it's a system thing. A lot of people want to point fingers at these people. I'm going to tell you something. It's a whole bunch of people out here in the regular world. Regular, everyday people that's into that same shit. And that's why a lot of them so quiet about these things. They won't talk about it, won't make no mention because they quietly doing the same shit. Yep. And how I know is because we've seen it in school. When we was in school, see, these old people didn't realize we was observing them. They think we stupid. See, old people think young children are stupid, and that's their problem. A lot of these old pedophile people in their 40s and 50s and 60s, they think young people are stupid. So what they do is they take advantage of little children like 14, 15-year-olds, 13-year-olds, thinking they could get them little stuff and buy their attention and buy their time and get them in their little places and then bring out their perverted side. So I'm saying we had a lot of 40-year-old men in Jamaica that was dating 14-year-old and 15-year-old girls when I was in school. And I honestly know that's a fact. Seeing a lot of 40-year-old, damn near 50-year-old men was dating 15, 14-year-old girls in Jamaica. Pedophile blood clot them. I'm telling them. Yeah, we're not afraid of that. So a lot of them are hide up right now and I go on them, don't want to talk nothing because they know who they are. Enough of them out there are pedophile them. Jamaica, USA, all around, you got old men that just don't like grown women. They want to get with little children. I'm telling you, bro, it's a sickness. It's something that come up. I must have slavery. I don't know what put it in these niggas. I don't know what spirit. I don't know what type of demonic spirit these niggas got going on in them, but there's a lot of them out there. See? And we have to freaking pint them out and get rid of them so they could go hide and put, or change or something. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. So we have to kind of like publicize certain topics and start, fire up certain shit and protect our children and, you know what I mean? Stick together on these type of issues. So these little people can get bun out. We need to bun them or we need to run them out of town so they can hide up or get beat. We need to, you know what I mean? However, yeah, man. So, yeah, Diddy is just another one in the.
I'm afraid of
many.
Puffy Day, whatever. His name changes so often. But if you have a history.
Puffy. Yeah, I keep it. This is back in the Tupac era. It was Puffy, and then it was
Right.
Puff Daddy, I think, and then now we're Diddy, and then I don't know. Sean John, that's the close, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so I try to keep
But
it all
if he has
straight.
a history, Anjanette, of violence, of going against people, then it makes sense that he would be able to get away with this kind of, if these rumors or allegations are true, it would make sense he would be able to get away from it, or get away with it for so long because people would be afraid. And if people know that you can get hurt or, snitches get stitches or worse, then people aren't going to come forward. And that's why the most important thing is to get evidence. And I think that's why the feds are taking so long. Normally, when you execute a search warrant like this on sex trafficking by the feds, they've already got enough to charge somebody. They're just getting everything to just like the icing on top. But they're making sure, because of who the defendant might be, that they have everything they can possibly get. And they might charge him with RICO, build in everything they can build in so that indictment looks very bad for the defendant. Or the alternative, they may never charge him. I don't have any inside edition. But I think with the fact that they've executed these warrants after these civil suits, and apparently people are talking, I would assume that there's possibly going to be a federal indictment announced.
So is the investigation into Tupac's murder, does that fold into this? Do you guys see that happening? Tim, you first.
I think they could use it as not actual charges, but they can use it as acts, predicate acts in a RICO conspiracy. If they can show that to get a RICO, they want to show this is a criminal organization, ongoing, has been ongoing for years, and this type of violence and crimes started in 96 and continued all the way till 2024, and includes the allegations by the people in these civil suits.
Eric, what are your thoughts on that?
I have to agree with him. They're going to look for the predicate acts, and he could correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't use a co-conspirator's testimony against another individual. You need an independent witness to corroborate it. Am I right?
Well, you can use a co-conspirator statement. It's not here.
This is crazy, people. One small break, and we'll be back shortly.
some kind of way. More Biggie than Tupac. I think Tupac might have got killed by a dude that they, had an incident with earlier that day. But Biggie seems a little governmental.
There are plenty of old-timers in the game who are dead sure Diddy put a hit out on Tupac, but it's a total mess right now because there's not much proof, a shaky witness in Keefe D, and Diddy's got this, of course, billion-dollar fortress built around him. But don't lose hope because some OGs are starting to speak up, and Ice Cube's been dropping hints about who walked Tupac for a minute now. See, now Diddy gives off this vibe of an untouchable dude who finessed the music industry. Hella cash off good artists and has those weird parties with his boys somewhere in the hills in his mansion. However, all of that might be coming to a grinding halt for Diddy, and it's all because of the recent Keefe D arrest. So now Keefe's getting ready for his trial, and the prosecutors, they're Diddy's working on a gospel album with Tiana Taylor, like nothing's ever gonna touch him. But let's not forget that this dude's done some shady stuff throughout his career, and somehow Diddy's the one who slips through the cracks, like every time. It seems like his luck might be changing though. Ice Cube, Eminem, 50 Cent, these are the ones who are actually speaking up about Diddy, and the fact that he may have been behind the hit on Pac. So when Pac and Ice Cube crossed paths out of the blue, it became a real game changer for Pac. In a subtle way, Cube kind of took him under his wing. It wasn't like some big dramatic thing, but during that time, he gave Tupac some guidance and acted as a mentor of sorts, which ended up being a pretty big deal in Tupac's artistic journey. They connected because they both went through the same struggles as young black men trying to make a name for themselves in a world that seemed stacked up against them. As Tupac's star status kept on rising, he never forgot the impact that Ice Cube had on his life and career.
Let's go. I met Pac. He was still part of Digital Underground, and he was just the cool young. We was both the young niggas around the group. So we would hang and kick it and shit. This digital shit is cool, man. But I want to do records like y'all. I want. He said, because where I live at, shit is fucked up, you know what I'm saying? And
he used to talk a lot about how Ice Cube had a massive impact on him, giving props to Cube for helping him discover his voice and gain the confidence to speak his truth. But now let's keep it real. You probably already know that Tupac managed to create the music that he truly wanted to make, all the while becoming one of the greatest and most influential artists ever. He dipped out of Digital Underground in '91 and dropped his first solo jam, Tupacalypse Now, the same year. Then he followed it up with Strictly from a Nip and Me Against the World. But things really blew up when he unleashed his Death Row Records debut, All Eyes on Me.
But as far as me, I felt like I always belonged on Death Row. Just was a matter of getting me there. Now that I'm there, mark my words, Death Row is the force to be reckoned with in this business. I promise you, no artist will outsell us. Nobody will touch us in the movie business. Ain't nobody hard as us. Ain't nobody real as us. Ain't nobody us.
All Eyes on Me went down in history as the first ever double-disc solo hip-hop album on CD. Tupac sold more than 75 million records worldwide and became a cultural legend. In true Tupac fashion, he just paid it forward, just like Cube did for him. One of the Death Row record people who Pac really impacted was Snoop Dogg, helping Snoop fully realize his unique style. The Dogfather even mentioned in an interview that his former Death Row label mate taught him the ropes of becoming a star, starting with pushing him to set up his style and fully embrace his pimp persona. Now, while all this was happening, Ice Cube was making movies in Hollywood, thanks to John Singleton's iconic film Boys in the Hood. Funny thing is, Cube wasn't all that interested in movies at the start. While all this was going down, Tupac was already dipping his toes into the film world before his music career really took off. His first film gig was back in 1991 with the flick Nothing But Trouble. Then, in '92, he hit the big screen in Juice, where he played the fictional character Bishop, a role that got praise from critics. But it wasn't until 1993 that Ice Cube and Tupac crossed paths once again, and this time it wasn't about music but the movies. It's interesting because Ice Cube's decision to pass on the role of poetic justice is what opened the door for Tupac to step in. We all know that film became a cult classic. You could say that Pac and Cube's lives were kind of intertwined at that point. Their stories had similarities and their paths connected. But then things took a dark turn when Tupac got in with Suge Knight, especially after the Quad Studio shooting, which he pinned on Biggie. After his release and his move to Death Row Records, that's when Tupac adopted this aggressive gangster persona. It was like he went all in. No more of those political bars. He just started rapping about the gangster lifestyle that he seemed to have been pulled into. Pac had transformed into a whole different beast, one that even Cube couldn't recognize anymore. Hit 'Em Up was next level controversial, infamous, disturbing, and just plain brutal. This track unleashed so much hatred on Biggie, Puffy, and the entire East Coast scene that it made Ice Cube's No Vaseline, a track about his NWA crew, sound like a gentle ballad.
Even when he played Hit 'Em Up the song, I didn't like the song. Did you feel like it was
I didn't
too
like
much?
it. Right. I didn't like it. Like, I didn't like shit. Like, it wasn't like the shit to me. Like, it was buying more problems, cuz. Like, you're buying problems.
Biggie seemed pretty shaken, or at least he put on a good act of it. And then Tupac claimed that he had been with Biggie's wife, rapper Faith Evans, and that sent shockwaves. Puff was in the same boat, looking like he was in disbelief. He denied any involvement in the Quad Studio shooting, but it was too late. Words were out there, and they could not be unsaid. The damage was done. While Ice Cube's diss track might have slammed the final nail in the NWA coffin, Tupac's track practically blew that coffin wide open. All signs seems to be pointing fingers at Puffy for Tupac's demise. We all know that, but at the end of the day, Suge is also to blame. Suge's responsible for Pac's death too because he allowed him to drop that track dissing the entire East Coast, basically marking himself as Dead Man Walking 3 months before his own demise. So back in the night of September 7th, 1996, Tupac was rolling in a black BMW with Suge Knight, the head honcho at Death Row Records. They were just sitting at a red light near the Vegas Strip when things started to go south. A white caddy pulled up and it got ugly. Gunfire broke out and Tupac got hit multiple times, and sadly, of course, he didn't make it. He was only 25 years old. Keefe D, who was recently arrested in connection to Tupac's murder, wrote about all this in his memoir. Keefe D spilled the beans, admitting that he was riding shotgun in that Cadillac and had snuck a gun into the back seat, where he claims the shots came from. Keefe's pointing the finger at his nephew, Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, saying that Orlando was one of the guys in the back seat that did the shooting. Anderson and Tupac had some bad blood and even had a casino brawl just before the shooting. Anderson bit the dust just 2 years later and always claimed that he had absolutely nothing to do with Tupac's death. Now, we couldn't reach those lawyers who used to represent Suge, and Suge himself actually caught a bullet fragment that night and got away with minor injuries. But he's currently doing time in California on a totally unrelated manslaughter charge, serving 28 years. Greg Keefe, retired LAPD detective who went in deep into Tupac's case and even wrote a book about it, was not shocked at all by Keefe's arrest. He says that Keefe basically threw himself into the mix and gave the Vegas cops exactly what they needed. Keefe also saw this murder charge coming, all thanks to Keefe's big old mouth. He believes Keefe was part of the plot from the very get-go. Now, with Keefe locked up and waiting for his trial, there have been a lot of rumors swirling around the block. Many believe that Keefe might implicate Diddy. As you know, he did mention his name many times before, both in interviews and even in his book. What a lot of folks, possibly Ice Cube included, might even believe what happened is Keefe's gonna say that Diddy was the one who solicited the hit on Pac. We already know about the bounty that Diddy put on Pac's head. That's what all started this drama in the first place. And with Keefe being unsatisfied with the fact that he organized the drive-by hit, yet didn't get a single penny in return, might put the blame on Diddy and give the cops a piece of evidence that nobody knew existed.
Shit, he said he didn't give us anything to do with it, you know? Yeah. Give me anything for these guys' head. You know, he said it in front of all the people. I couldn't believe it. You know what I'm saying?
In Anaheim?
Yeah. Whole home full of Crips.
So this is after Jay got killed. So he was on point. He was worried about something happening.
Yeah.
She got mouthed off about a bunch of different stuff, so he was scared.
He was scared to death, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were on the building.
You said you walked downstairs. Did he say, come meet me downstairs?
Yeah, he said, come on downstairs and talk.
He tells you, seriously, man, I need to get rid of these guys. I'm just looking at you in the eyes. It's like scared.
Yeah.
50 Cent sure told Diddy that he should watch out. Once Keefe D's transcript hit the scene, 50 Cent couldn't resist chiming in on Instagram. He posted, "Damn, so Pac got lined by Brother Love? LOL, time to lawyer up. Might get sticky." Then he added a pic of Tupac in that iconic black BMW, the same one from that infamous night when Tupac got shot after that Mike Tyson fight in Vegas back in '96. Now, nobody can deny that Bad Boy Records people were involved, but the main question still remains, even if they toss some dirt on Diddy's name, can they make it stick? Seems like Diddy's been the Teflon Don ever since he made it big. It's like he managed to fool every single person who ever done business with him. Seems he's just got a real talent for those kind of things. What's gonna stop Diddy from finessing the cops again, if push comes to shove? We've seen what he can do before, and he really finds a good lawyer. Like Fitty suggested, he might just get away with putting a hit on Pac. How y'all feel about this Cube and Pac? Do you think the Cube knows more about Diddy's involvement in the hit on Pac? Let us know what you think down in the comments section below. If you
Wow.
Vulnerability and current state of mind will all be heard in this groundbreaking podcast series, featuring conversations with me and many other guests who have agreed to accept Suge's collect call. Suge will be putting periods to all question marks while answering everything hip-hop fans worldwide want to know.
Once I was sentenced to come to prison, I want to be on my way to prison and be the type of man to play the victim role. I have a pity party. I don't believe in that. When you got time to do, you man up and you do your time. So it's a lot of things I have to work on. And first and foremost, I had to work on was getting myself healthy, making my circle smaller, have a good team out there. And I felt I accomplished all those type of things, and I even worked on my relationship with God even better. I'm just not saying that you tell the prison all of a sudden you're religious, I'm always religious. I just don't follow the church, I just don't follow man, I follow God. But the most important thing that kept me going to understand that I got people that really care about me, and I don't want for nothing. I say, you know, if it's 5,000 people at a prison on East York, I know I'm doing better than 4,999. So that's always a good feeling to have. But he also gave me time to reflect on a lot of the stuff. I know a lot of things, some of the cards were dealt to me wrong, and or they played dirty pool, even when it came to the fact that I got a default judgment. Again, the woman just, you know, the court and said, what's going on? Why she's shouting? Somebody threatening her. Next thing you know, 14 marshals came to arrest me. So Dan McCarthy goes and said, no. I'm his attorney. I'm sitting right here. Mr. Knight haven't said a word to nobody. He said, the reason why they saying that, the person got threatened is my wife. They said, your wife? He said, yeah. Michael Harris sent some guys over and threatened my wife and said, if I keep doing a good job for Mr. Knight, they're going to do something out of my family. When they said that, they wanted Dan McCarthy to take a deposition with the feds. It was in federal court, which he did. So when that happened, they said it was too much for a woman judge and gave a man judge. That's when the bullshit came in the game. That's when they just ignored everything was right on. She was going to definitely give me my company back. So when I got to prison, I started going over all this stuff. I said, wait. They said that she filed bankruptcy. And if a person filed bankruptcy, that means if you don't claim Death Row or another company, you can't claim it later on. Because she had a trustee and creditors. So when I found that out, that's when I started talking to the attorney about it. That's when I even talked to Lily Harris about it. And she was like, yeah, I filed bankruptcy. I said, okay, that's true. Now I get the emails from Goldberg, who's Michael Harris' attorney, the Castleman, who's Lily Harris' attorney. So Goldberg emails Castleman saying, you know, get out the way, basically. We're going to take it from here, and we're going to deal with it. And Castleman emails the next thing, no, it's our judgment. I represent Lydia Harris. Lydia got the judgment, not you and Mike. They said, well, you don't supposed to have anything because Lydia Harris filed for bankruptcy. And when she filed for bankruptcy, she never claimed any involvement or any ownership with Death Row. So Castleman emails it back. I said, well, I didn't find out till almost a year later. But as an officer of court, it wasn't settled. It wasn't resolved. You contact the judge and say, hey, the court to say we can't move forward with this, it's illegal. But neither side did. So when that happened, I was like, okay, let me dig more and get involved in my shit. So what ended up happening after that, Castleman sued my attorney. The reason why he sued my attorney, because my attorney wasn't paid the money.
Man, Sugar ain't talking about nothing but his case. What the fuck? Alright, Sugar. We'll come back to you another time.
Hello and welcome to the TMZ podcast. I'm Charlie Cotton and today I'm joined by Derek Kaufman.
Good to see you. We got big stories and they're quite legal. Is that why you invited me?
Yeah, we wanted
it was our friendship, but it's just you're here for my legal advice.
Yeah, well, we wanted our funniest co-host to talk about
Tupac's murder,
the most serious true crime-ish episode of TMZ. There's some pretty dark stories today. We're going to talk about Jason Aldean, the country star. He's got a new song out and he's having to come out and deny. And we're going to talk about that's Tupac Shakur, the murder of Tupac Shakur.
The unsolved murder of Tupac Shakur.
The case is alive.
It's alive. He was shot and killed in September of 1996. I was 16 years old. I'm an old man. I'm 43 years old right now. This was one of the biggest moments of my lifetime. Harvey always talks about the assassination of JFK and how it shook his life. For people my age who listened to rap in the 90s, this was a momentous event.
You don't seem like a rap
I was a huge rap fan. I know I don't seem it, but I'm way cooler than you guys give me credit for.
Maybe.
You guys think I was a geek in chemistry class.
Yes.
I was bumping Tupac.
Really?
And Biggie. In Florida, you could be a fan of both. It didn't really matter. We East Coast, West Coast, we just like good rap. This is wild because I assumed that this case was going to remain cold and there would be documentaries, but it would never really be solved. And the reason I say that is not because there's racism in the police department, which I believe there also is systemic sort of racism, but as time goes on, evidence deteriorates, witnesses die, memories fade. It's hard to solve crimes this far after. We're 27 years later. To have anybody who could say something about this crime that is credible is hard to believe.
So
but
what
here we go.
Tell me what happened. New information.
So the Las Vegas PD basically served a search warrant on a home in Las Vegas. Remember, he was shot and killed in Las Vegas after a boxing match
Mike Tyson,
night, after the Mike Tyson fight. So they serve a warrant, and that means they're going to go search a home. And this home is connected to a man named Keefe D. Keefe D has a wife. His wife's home is the home being searched. Now, Keefe D is the uncle of a man named Orlando Anderson. Orlando Anderson is a huge name in Tupac lore because before Tupac was killed in Vegas, there was security footage in a Vegas casino of Suge, Tupac, and others jumping Orlando Anderson. So the rumor had always been that Orlando Anderson got jumped, was embarrassed or upset after getting jumped, and later that evening orchestrated a retaliatory murder of Tupac from a car. And Keefe D, the uncle of this guy, or the purported uncle, says he was in the car and saw his nephew squeeze off the shots that killed Tupac.
So why didn't we go after this guy at the time? Like, this might have been the biggest story and biggest thing to you when you were 16, but in Australia, when I was probably, how old? Like 10 at the time? Yeah. It didn't even, I didn't even
register.
Didn't register. I'm learning it. This is all the news to me right now, so tell me about it.
So I don't know exactly why they didn't investigate this, because it is sort of just out there and was out there quite early on. Orlando Anderson, by the way, is dead. He died in a shootout years later. But I think what everyone clammed up about is Keefe D is a purported Crip. Tupac had ties to the Bloods. Those are gang rivalries. And when there's a shooting, there's a bit of a code of nobody says anything. You know, if this was a high up and high level Crip, no one's going to out him because there could be reprisals and you could get hurt if you do that. So everyone just clams up. You know, it's not.
Is this a snitches get stitches thing?
A little bit of that, right? Okay. It's not, the world is not filled with Takashis, or at least back in the 90s, it was much tighter. They were more, everyone knew what to do in these situations and obviously didn't cooperate to the extent that the police could put together a case. And now, but the cases remain alive until they're solved. Tupac was still murdered. We know that. So it never actually closed the case. And there must have been something that triggered enough for a search warrant. You got to have probable cause.
Like the cops must have in the last few days or weeks or whatever got some sort of tip or what's
it could be a tip, but it would have to be credible enough. So tips come in all the time and there has to be a basis enough to tell a judge, hey, because in the under the Fourth Amendment here, you're not allowed to be searched unless there is probable cause, unless there's a warrant that they can serve. They have enough in that document that the judge says, okay, you have reason to suspect that a crime has been committed and something connected to that crime is in that house. I'm going to let you go search that house.
So the FBI, the cops, they're looking for something. Have they executed this search warrant? They've been in the house?
Apparently they've been in the house. We don't know if it's been returned. We don't know if the search warrant returned anything valuable. Because you go in the house, you hope to find the gun or some evidence or whatever they're looking for. We don't know what came back yet. But what we do know is that the wife of Keefe D also has a home in Compton. And I'll tell you that earlier, a couple years ago, a gun that was purported to be the gun that fired the shots that killed Tupac was discovered in a house in Compton owned by a woman who was connected to a Crip. And she's never been thought to be one of the people in the car, but it was the girlfriend of a Crip. Keefe D is a known Crip, and this is his wife's house in Compton. So if that's the same person that owns the house in Vegas and the house in Compton, and the weapon is assumed to be found in that house in Compton, maybe there's a connection there. Maybe that gun is sort of this prized possession in certain circles, and it exists. Now, I don't know how they can still run forensics, I guess. You pull the bullets out of someone and you can see little engravings about what gun it came from, and you can try to match the bullet to the gun. But again, this evidence is very old, and it'll be hard to sort of piece this all together at this point in time. We'll have to see.
That would be crazy if they solve the Tupac case.
It would be nuts.
Then they'll open the Biggie case again, or
Yeah, the Biggie case is also unsolved, and that was a year later in LA that happened. We had our holiday party at the place, not because of this, but at the Peterson Auto Museum, where Biggie was shot outside of the Peterson Auto Museum. So this is that will certainly be the next focus of the public. I'm not sure that cops will immediately say, "Oh, now we have to solve Biggie." I don't think that's how cops work. They'll wait for tips, but it is interesting.
Interesting. All right, that one's going to be a great thing.
Are you now more interested, even though you're all the way in Australia? I am. Learned about Tupac's murder. I'm sorry to break the news to you.
I know. I'm actually very sad. I'm going to go and listen to All Eyes on Me.
Okay, that's one of my favorite double albums.
Is that a good one?
Yes.
All right, on to our next story. Jason Aldean, very famous country star. Well, a little while ago, he put out a song called Try That in a Small Town, and it didn't even really...
Room, there was a big fist fight in the parking lot, and one of the things that Suge had given to his entourage and his close friends were these death row medallions. And so one of the Crips attempted to steal one of the Blood Gang members' death row medallions at that Foot Locker and during that fight. So now they've already got that conflict. One of those Blood Gang members was wearing that death row medallion, his name was Trayvon Lane. So now fast forward to Vegas. Suge Knight, a bunch of the Blood Gang members, and Tupac have just left the arena where they watched Mike Tyson fight. They're walking through the lobby of the MGM. Trayvon Lane looks across the lobby and he sees Orlando Anderson, who's the guy that tried to snatch his chain months ago. So
he's
now,
like, that's the dude.
He says it to Tupac. He's like, yo, that's that motherfucker right there, you know. And so Pac takes it upon himself just to kind of run across the room and sucker punch Orlando. And so when he says that's not us, then we can now put a little bit more emphasis on the remaining theories. And that was obviously that Suge Knight was ultimately behind Biggie's death, which proved to be true. Is that the name of your gym, the Ludus Combat Club?
Oh, that is the name of a guy in Plattsburgh, New York. The name of his gym. I met him over the pandemic. His name's Adam Fleury, and he was running a knife defense seminar. Okay. And I was looking for shit to do just to get out of New York. And I saw he was running it at his gym in Plattsburgh.
Okay.
And went up there, basically stabbed each other with rubber knives for 2 days, did some jiu-jitsu, some Muay Thai. That's like when I first started doing Muay Thai too. Okay. And I saw his gym, he also did Muay Thai. He lived in Thailand for a while. And yeah, so that's Ludus Combat Club. I go up there about once a year. Like I went up there in September, and we just did like a full jiu-jitsu Muay Thai weekend.
But he also specializes in knife fighting?
Yeah, he served in Iraq for 4 years and then worked there as a contractor. And then when he was there, he was doing a lot of, like, I guess practicing with other guys, hand-to-hand combat. Whoever else did, like, knife defense and jiu-jitsu, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so he kind of just, like, kept doing the jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, but then added in the knife defense to it.
Got it.
Which is pretty cool, because, like, we'll be rolling, and to spice things up, he'll put a knife, like he'll just like throw a knife onto the floor, and whoever gets it gets to use it on the opponent, like the rubber knife. And so it's like you're in a clinch with someone, but then you're also trying to like control their wrist from them stabbing you.
Right.
Which I hope never happens, but it's just fun to see like how helpless I actually am against a stabbing, because I've seen videos, and you watch a video and you're like, okay, I just have to do this. I have to grab the guy's wrist. I keep it over here. Then like for some reason he's gonna stop trying to switch hands, and he's just gonna keep it in the same hand.
Right.
And then when someone has a rubber knife and like you can actually go 100%, then like you get the wrist and they just like toss it into their other hand and like stab you in the ribs. I'm like, well, I'm dead. I
Game
guess.
over.
Yeah.
It's so true, and people don't realize how quickly people can close. Like if I'm sitting or I'm standing where I'm sitting, and you're over at the door, 15 feet away, how quickly I can close that distance. That people don't realize, because a lot of times when cops shoot guys with knives, there's criticism because, well, what was the threat? He's way over there. But if you actually look at how quickly those things can evolve into a fatal stabbing, it's like less than 2 seconds.
Yeah, like for someone to, like, and even if someone's not really that athletic, they could get to you in maybe 2.5 steps. As a hitter, you're seeing a pitch, but like for a period in the LAPD, when you're training and you're going through different weapons defenses and guns and knives, and I'm sitting here with Greg Kading, who wrote the smash book Murder Rap, and that covers the investigation that you restarted back in 2009 of Biggie Smalls, Christopher Wallace, and that also covered much of the Tupac Shakur murder investigation. And before we get into the specifics of it, I wanted to ask you about something that was mentioned in your book. It was a quick gloss over, but I thought it probably had a lot to do with how you developed later on in your life and your career. And you talk about growing up in the 60s with your mom and your sisters living like gypsies, kind of moving from camp to camp. So I wanted to ask you, what the hell is that like? Because that is so far away from how I grew up in Long Island, like suburbs. What was it like moving around like that, growing up with, it sounds like a 60s spirited mom kind of living that gypsy life?
Yeah, totally. My mom would have definitely qualified as a hippie, and we were very transient. I don't think that we ever lived in a particular home for more than a year. So we were just bouncing around a lot. Mom was a little bit unstable insofar as, just having that foundation,
Yeah.
And so my parents were divorced when I was just an infant, and I think I was less than 2 years old, if that qualifies as an infant. So I was just a small child, had 2 older sisters, and of course, when you're a kid, your instincts are to always hold on to mom.
Yeah.
And so I spent my life, with a single parent. My mom was always moving, but it gave me an opportunity. Really, those things can also be a benefit because you're constantly adjusting to new environments, trying to find new friends. And so there's there's that process, but it also can lead to a lot of insecurity. I grew
that broke yesterday about Keefe D getting arrested for Tupac murder?
Man, you know, I was, of course, I think it caught everybody off guard because, you know, 27 years went by. I really pretty much was expecting nothing to come out of it. I still got to see how the trial go. You know what I mean? I feel like he told on himself. You understand? It's like one of these things where you gotta realize that he put himself in that situation. You know, as you know, coming from a certain type of background that we came from, some stuff you're supposed to take. You know, you just take it and say, you know what, I got this, you know, profit agreement. You know, they hit me on the wrist. Let me just shut my mouth, and you know what I mean. So he caused that on himself. Also, you would think that when an individual get older, he was 60 years old. So, you know, the time that Pac passed away, he was in his early 30s. You would think 30 years later, the mindset of an individual would change and say, you know, I kind of feel bad what happened to Pac. The people love him. I'm a grandfather now, you know what I mean? But he kept just going and just like he was loving to brag about being involved in the murder of Pac. So he brought that on himself.
How did that make you feel, man, when you seen Keefe D doing all these interviews over the years about Tupac murder?
I'm going to keep it, man. To be honest, I never really watched his interview. Of course, I came across certain clips or something, but it was nothing that I wanted to pay attention to. I did know that he was doing interviews and he was bragging. I think I might have seen a clip where he was bragging how Pac was, he made a joke like Pac was breakdancing or something. I just felt like, man, that's some, you know what I mean? Like, that's when I realized, like, you know, this guy he just so, I guess he took the fame and the likes more precious than his freedom. You know, this social media, you know, as the youngsters say, clout chasing, this is like a drug to the point where you got people that would risk their freedom just to get a little bit of that, whatever that comes from it, that dopamine rush, because they got people looking at the interviews and they seeing the numbers and they getting the likes to the point that he risks his own freedom.
It's driving him crazy.
You know what I mean? So he brought that on himself. So to be bragging about, like, if you know, he was Pac was 25 years old when he passed away. So 30 years later, you clowning and joking how a person lost his life is definitely disrespectful.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. But what do you think is going to come out of all this?
You know, man, with the history of things that happen in the States and America, we never know, bro. You know what I mean? You never know how things can turn. You never really know. You know what I mean? I'm the type of person, I really, you know, I always look at life that we can get away with things in this life, but at the end of the day, like I said in one of my other interviews, the ultimate judgment is on the day of judgment. You know what I mean? So I never really put too much hope on who's going to go to jail, because if Pac was alive, for example, Pac survived the shooting, Pac himself wouldn't want Keefe D to go to jail. A lot of people going to say that they might not understand it, but me knowing Pac ain't going to get no law involved, because Pac going to understand that he did something in the streets, what came back with street stuff. So Pac, the type, even when he was dying, remember the cops said, we asked him who did it. Pac knew what happened. Of course, he just fought somebody. An hour, 2 hours later, as a drive-by shooting. Pac, I'm sure before he understood what that retaliation was about. And Pac still said, I'm not talking. So, you know, Pac himself wouldn't want prison on that, because Pac realized that this is the life that he was living at that particular time. You know, so that's why I never really put too much hope in the justice system. And I don't mean it in the, you know, American justice system is so wide that you have some cases where people do get they justice and what's written for them. Then you got people that, you know, that can escape certain stuff. You know what I mean? It all depends. You got people that, so when it comes to the jail and the sentencing, I really don't pay too much in mind. I care about that. You know, I just know that on that day of judgment, that's the real deal. That we all gonna have to, you know, stand in front of our Creator.
And I know you was very adamant, man. You always been adamant about, you know, the police. You feel like they never wanted to solve Tupac murder. You still feel like that?
Yeah. I still kind of feel that way until I see everything, you know, until I see the finalization. You know what I mean? I think, of course, for the family, they happy. And I'm sure they're grateful, because the family is civilians. They have nothing. They don't really understand, you know, the certain things that come with the street. So for them, they looking at it like, we happy to hear some type of breakthrough in the case of what happened to Pac. But I really don't know, because as I mentioned before, Pac wasn't really too much liked by the police. maybe the police is embarrassed. Maybe because they say he's been talking and talking and talking, the whole world is watching us. Maybe we have to make an example. You know, I think that was more of a case than no one that saw Pac murder. I think it was more of that they feeling embarrassed because this is an individual that's openly saying he was there with a murder and he just walking freely. So I think they was pushed against the wall and said, we have no other choice to do this now. Because like I said before, they could have solved this 27 years ago. It's crazy. I still believe that, you know, because of Pac's background, because of his family background, because of, you know, he shot 2 off-duty police. I don't really think that they really was rushing to solve his murder. I think now they feel like they don't have no other choice because they like, this is an individual that's openly speaking about it. Like, the whole world is watching us. What do we do now? So I think, and God knows best, that it was probably more of an embarrassment thing for the police. So more so than them wanting to solve Pac murder. That's just my opinion.
So you feel like the police still hold a grudge against Tupac for shooting them off-duty cops?
I really do. I'm not with these conspiracy theorists who think the government killed Pac or the CIA killed Pac. You know, we know what happened. You know what I mean? The streets knew 27 years ago what happened. But I don't think that the government have any involvement in it. Like, we have some people that believe that. I don't think the government had any involvement in it. But I do believe that, you know, you got to understand, you have people from, you know, you have government officials who was trying to ban pop music. You know, you had government official, C. Dolores Tucker, and these politicians who was out against him. Then he shot 2 off-duty police. You understand? So you already on the opposite sides of, you know, people that feel. It's not like he shot 2 police that's trying to, like Pac himself said, you know, there's good police and bad police. You know, Pac said it out himself, and I think everyone agreed with him when he said, we respect the police that really do their job. You know what I mean? We respect police that really do their job, that really fear and don't really take their power, don't abuse their power. You know what I mean? But these were 2 off-duty police that he shot, but at the end of the day, they still police. So I think, you know, Pac, most of his music was speaking about against these things. So I think that this case is being more of, we got to do something because now we're looking like a joke as police, and you know what I mean? But not much so wanting to solve the murder of Pac. Because if they really wanted to, bro, they would have did it, you know what I mean, 27 years ago. And at the end of the day, like I said, that's my opinion. I can be wrong.
Shot me up. I already took 5 bullets. And if I can help it, I don't plan on taking no more.
Do you know who shot you? No. Is that a no or is that a maybe?
No, I don't know who shot me. As far as foes and enemies and all that, I really don't care. My only fear of death is coming back reincarnated.
So does that mean that you also have no idea why they shot you?
No, I have no idea why they shot me. And it's not like I'm untouchable. I can be killed as soon as I get out of here.
Do you think that they shot you just to get your jewelry?
I don't know. It's like anybody's guess. I don't know. But I'm a soldier. I always survive. I constantly come back. You know what I mean? Only thing that can kill me is death. That's the only thing that'll ever stop me is death. And even then, my music will live forever.
On November 29th, 1994, a Manhattan jury had convened to deliberate charges of sodomy, abuse, and weapons possession against Tupac and his road manager at the time, Charles Fuller. They stood accused of molesting a 19-year-old woman in Tupac's $750 a night, 38th floor Parker Meridian Hotel Suite on November 18th, 1993. After the first day of deliberations and an interview outside the courthouse in New York, Tupac left for a publicity stop in Harlem, then went on to Times Square's Quad Recording Studios at 723 7th Avenue to record a track with a rapper signed to Uptown Records called Lil Sean. Tupac knew it might be his last recording session for some time, as he was facing a maximum 25-year sentence, which would have most likely put an end to his music and acting career. He had already lost a movie role and a guest spot on a TV series, and his legal bills were piling up. Tupac needed cash urgently. During his trial, he would spend his evenings going from one recording studio to another. He was trying to rap his way out of financial ruin. He would go to court early in the morning and hit the studio in the evening, trying to record as much music as possible.
On the night of November 30th, 1994, Tupac was ambushed and shot inside the lobby of a recording studio. His team of criminal attorneys had been in New York with him, awaiting a verdict on assault charges against him. His attorney said the shooting, quote-unquote, looked and smelled like a setup. Later, Tupac publicly blamed the Notorious B.I.G., who was upstairs in a recording session at the time, in helping to set up the attack. But let's go back a little and break this down step by step. Early in the evening, Tupac had been invited by a New York DJ named Ron G to record with him. It was the Notorious B.I.G. who introduced the two to each other. Ron G said, "Pac, I want you to come to my house and lay this rap down for my tapes." Pac agreed to do it for free as a favor for the young DJ, whom he wanted to help out, but at the same time it was Biggie's man. So it didn't really feel right for Pac to charge his friends. Him and Big were very close back then. Pac always wanted him in his group Thug Life, and they were both doing each other favors all the time. Pac especially. All the things he did for Biggie and his friends were for free. He usually charged other people a fee to record for their tapes and albums. Ron G and his manager had called and asked him numerous times for a Hot 16. For 2 whole weeks he kept calling him. Tried to arrange a studio session with Pac so that he can lay down a 16-bar verse for his mixtape. But Pac was busy, with all the cases, his music, and of course with shooting the movie Bullet, which came out 2 years later. So he didn't answer until the day he actually got there, which was November 29th, 1994. Pac finally picked up the phone and said, "Yo, I'ma come through." Ron G gave him his address and Tupac drove to his house with his manager Freddie Moore, his common-law brother-in-law Zay Turner, and rapper Randy Walker, aka Big Stretch from the Life Squad, who was one of Tupac's closest friends at that point. Down with him since day one, even before the movie Juice was filmed, and before Tupac recorded his debut album Tupacalypse Now. Ron G made the beat on the spot. Stretch and Pac were quickly writing their verses, but Pac was constantly getting paged by somebody. So he seemed a little troubled, according to the DJ. And even in the verse that he wrote down, he seemed a little worried and anxious. It almost sounded prophetic, because in the opening lines of the verse, he predicted that there are people out there that are trying to kill him. And just a few hours later, he gets shot 5 times. Pac always sounded like he's predicting the future. He then said, "They sending armies out to bomb me." The people who were about to shoot and rob him were dressed in army fatigues.
Trying to be strong, they sending armies out to bomb me.
He even dissed a New York gangster named Haitian Jack on here, a man who played a significant role in Tupac's Ayanna Jackson assault case and also in the Quad Studio shooting, which was about to happen. Tupac met Haitian Jack in 1993 at Scores, New York, 536 West 28th Street, where they watched the Riddick Bowe vs. Evander Holyfield's Repeat or Revenge heavyweight title rematch on November 6, 1993. Pac came and hung out with him in the VIP room of Scores. Jack got him a bottle of Remy Martin, Cuban cigars, and Pac fell in love with that lifestyle. Jack told him that he should reach out to him every time he's in New York, and Pac said he'll do that. The two became close friends after that. The boxer Mike Tyson was telling Pac that he was out of his league hanging with Haitian Jack.
You're awake, Commander. Zombies forced us here, and the situation.
So Mike Tyson was telling Pac that he was out of his league hanging with Haitian Jack, but Pac wouldn't listen. He used to dress in baggies and sneakers. Haitian Jack and Ricky Lee took him shopping and quote-unquote made him more mature by introducing him to gangsters in Brooklyn. He told Jack that he's glad that he met him, because it helped with the movie character he was working on. Pac was in New York for much of '93 filming the cult classic Above the Rim. He played a character named Birdie, a New York gangster much like Haitian Jack, who wooed people through his flash and charisma while ruling through paralyzing fear. He got a swagger from Jack, the way he handles himself and how everybody is always around him, that people gravitate to a gangster. Their honeymoon phase abruptly ended on November 18th, 1993. That night, shortly before Thanksgiving, would lead to the single most consequential accusation in rap history, because of the dominoes that would fall later. Jack and Pac had a falling out due to the assault case. Tupac, his manager Charles Fuller, Haitian Jack, and Rick Alinzi, aka Trevor, all got accused of assaulting the 19-year-old Ayanna Jackson in Tupac's 38th floor room at the Parker Meridian Hotel. Haitian Jack was hereby the one who orchestrated it. He was Pac's co-defendant, but their cases were separated and they had different trials, which made Pac believe that Jack snitched on him and sold him out. The notorious B.I.G. was there too that night, left his guns there and left as soon as Ayanna Jackson came in, which seems kinda odd at first, but he himself tried to stay away from Haitian Jack, cause he was a serious street cat that basically poisoned everything he touched. But from the outside it seemed like Biggie was always involved when Pac got into trouble, cause Pac was charged with weapons possession that same night, even though those were Biggie's, Jack's and Trevor's guns. 4 guns with their serial numbers scratched out were found in Tupac's hotel room. He spent much of '94 proclaiming his innocence. The fact that he left exactly when Ayanna Jackson came in, and that he was also in the same building when Pac got shot, gave Pac enough reason to think that Biggie might have known something about these incidences, cause he thought everything was a setup. Pac and Ayanna Jackson were in the bedroom alone when other men entered and proceeded to assault her. Pac had already left the room after feeling weirded out by the group setting. He talked with his publicist in a different room, felt groggy and went to sleep. He awoke to Ayanna Jackson yelling at him for more or less allowing them to assault her. Pac, his road manager Charles Fuller, Haitian Jack and Trevor were accused of committing that crime. But Haitian Jack and the others got away and Pac became the main target. According to Pac's brother-in-law Zayd, Tupac told Haitian Jack to his face how he felt about him getting a separate trial for the same crime. He allegedly said it in front of Zayd, Stretch, Jack and a couple of OGs. He stepped away from Jack and told him that he wants to have nothing to do with him anymore. And Jack was sitting there speechless, looking at him with a quote-unquote humble look on his face. But Zayd apparently knew that Jack was mad, that he wasn't showing his anger, cause he let his soldiers know about it and they were now coming for Pac, who tried to disassociate from him. By the end of November 1994, Tupac had dumped Haitian Jack as a friend, but Jack was seen trailing him. He would try to holler at him in clubs. Tupac would just ignore him and continue doing what he does. When they ran into each other at one of Puff Daddy's parties, to which both were invited, he ignored him once again and instead stuck close to Biggie.
You got Haitian Jack here popping bottles with your crew like y'all homeboys. We ain't even like that. So what is it then? We gotta get you on that little Sean record, alright? That's one of his artists. You remember?
This was blatant disrespect. Even enemies acknowledged each other's presence. And disrespecting someone like Haitian Jack was dangerous. Biggie warned Pac about him, saying that he should stay away from Haitian Jack. According to Pac, Big said this about a week before the Quad Studio shooting.
But he told me like about a week before I got shot, he knew it was shot. I mean, he's like, Pop, don't hang around this, I walked in with that shot and I ended up shooting me. He's like, Pop, because I knew it too, because my Kobe fan. And I was like, what you mean? He's like, I'll talk to you about it later. And we didn't talk.
Haitian Jack found out about Biggie's advice, either through Pac himself or somebody else, and sent a group of thugs to rob Biggie, cause the Bad Boy camp later blamed Pac for it, that Biggie got robbed for warning him, just cause Pac told Haitian Jack about it, which many people in Pac's camp deny to this day, cause Pac wasn't even speaking to him anymore. According to Lil Sean, Pac for whatever reason told Haitian Jack about it. Yo, Biggie told me to stay away from you. Shortly after that, Biggie got robbed. Haitian Jack and his people stopped messing with Big. According to Biggie's camp, this incident happened before the Quad Studio shooting. And the conversation between him and Pac wasn't a week before the robbery, but a whole year, when he first started hanging out with him. Cause Tupac and Haitian Jack weren't talking anymore a week before the shooting. So he couldn't have told Jack about it. Or maybe he heard about it some other way. Who knows? He called Haitian Jack a hanger-on in the Daily News after their cases got separated, and when the two started beefing. Jack felt like it was the other way around, that Pac was hanging on to him, and looking up to him. Pac also delivered one of his most emotionally charged interviews on November 29th, hours before the Quad Studio shooting, in which he pleaded his innocence once more, while asking the reporters where his co-defendants are, how they are getting away, even though they're the ones that committed the crime while he was asleep.
Where are the people that did this? They were all in the same hotel as me. They were all right in the same room as me. Why am I the only one in court right now? Why is the cameras all on me? And in the report, in all these charges, I didn't do nothing. I'm charged with being in concert with some guy. But where they at? My co-defendants to this day have never been to trial.
The interview in front of the courthouse took place hours before the shooting. Haitian Jack and his people saw this and were even more upset about him. Pac was all good when I was doing things for him, until we caught that punk A case that easily could have been beaten by both of us, Haitian Jack said. He let his attorneys turn him against me, and that's the part I'll never forgive him for, because I'm gonna ride or die for you. I expect you to do the same. See, that's what I call a fair weather friend. They all talked about it together, and Jack told them to just leave it alone, and not to do anything to Pac.
Mr. Shakur also recently told the New York Post he blames this entire case on hangers-on. So you were offended when he called you a hanger-oner in the Daily News?
I was offended, but I didn't think what he said warrants him to be hurt.
Wow.
I'm a hanger-on now, right? Y'all hear this, boy? I gave that little his first Rolex. I had told everyone not to do anything to Pop.
That bozo, man. I should have been fried this. So. Yo, let's get that.
Y'all ain't gonna get Don't nothing happen unless I say it happened. I got. A lot of people listened and said, look, Jackson, leave it alone. And they left it alone, but there's always one in the crowd that has something to prove.
The person he's talking about is a man named Jimmy Roseman, also known as Jimmy Henchman, who is an American entertainment record executive and convicted drug trafficker. Jimmy Henchman didn't like how Tupac was speaking publicly about the trial, in particular about Haitian Jack, who he labeled as a snitch who gets a special treatment by the court and government, making Pac look like the main offender, even though he wasn't in the same room when Ayanna Jackson got assaulted, cause Pac was sleeping next door while Haitian Jack assaulted her with two other men.
If you listen right in there, none of these charges of this none of this gangbang stuff came out in the trial. She says people was rubbing her ass, grabbing her ass. Where are these people?
Jimmy Henchman wanted to discipline him for his remarks about Haitian Jack, but Jack didn't want them to do anything without him giving the green light. They were all part of the same team. Haitian Jack, Jimmy Henchman, his best friend Dexter Isaac, Spunk, and JD, the two homies of Dexter who were there during the robbery. But it's not clear if the comments about Haitian Jack were indeed the main motive behind the robbery, as something else was still about to happen that made Jimmy give the three assailants the green light to do the robbery. We do know that Jimmy and Haitian Jack were close friends, so it's not unlikely that Tupac's disrespect towards Jack upset him too. Some say the revenge for Haitian Jack was planned days in advance, while others say it was spontaneous for disrespecting Jimmy Henchman as well, so that Jimmy finally found a reason to send his people at him without Haitian Jack taking the blame. It was also Haitian Jack who introduced Tupac to Jimmy Henchman. And now, while Pac is trying to finish the taping session with Ron G, he's constantly getting paged by Haitian Jack's associates. Jimmy called Pac and asked him to tape a song with East Coast rapper Lil Sean, a verse on a track produced by Bryce Wilson. Jimmy had it all planned out days before it happened, because it was later revealed by Lil Sean that Jimmy went to the owner of Uptown Records, Andre Harrell, and told him that Tupac wants to do a song with him. Jimmy spoke for Tupac and Lil Sean, even though none of them were interested in doing that collaboration. Pac never asked to do a song with him, and Lil Sean wanted to leave the rap game and stop working on music, because he was tired of it. Andre Harrell always wanted Pac to appear in his cop drama New York Undercover, which premiered on Fox in September '94. Tupac already had Juice, Poetic Justice, and Above the Rim on his resume at the time. Harrell didn't really care about Sean, as he wasn't a platinum artist or anyone important on that label. He just wanted Tupac on his TV show. He saw this collaboration as the perfect opportunity to ask him. So Andre Harrell called Lil Sean and told him that Pac wants to do a record with him. Again, Pac never asked to do that song, and Sean wasn't interested in working with him. He had met Tupac through Haitian Jack, who had a barbershop in Queens, where they all hung out after they stopped cutting hair. And since then, he tried to stay away from those two, because he wasn't feeling the vibe. Pac driving around flashing guns, smoking weeds, his weird relationship with Haitian Jack, where both of them tried to prove themselves, Sean just didn't like being around them, cause they were like fire and gasoline. But Sean was still cool with Jack. They had a big brother, little brother type of relationship. When they picked up Tupac at the Meridian Hotel, Sean was scared of Pac, cause he was walking around flashing his gun and his big bag of weeds, playing Spice One in the car of the gangster Haitian Jack, even though Jack didn't like the smell of weeds nor rap music in general. But he had no problem with Pac smoking and listening to that in his car while having his gun out. Sean just wanted to make it back and leave the car in one piece, scared that something might happen or that they'll end up in jail. Jack and Pac were both trying to impress each other with how gangster they are, and Sean was getting nervous. But the incident where they picked up Tupac at the hotel was just a few days before Jack and Pac were both arrested at the Meridian Hotel for allegedly assaulting the 19-year-old Ayanna Jackson. He never wanted to hang out with those two ever again, and that's one of the reasons why he didn't want to do the song with Tupac. But Jimmy Henchman and Andre Harrell would go on to work out their deal to where Tupac would record with Little Sean against his will. Sean knew that they were just using him to do business with Tupac, but he couldn't just say no, because the label was giving him $3,000 monthly for basically doing nothing. He didn't want to affect any of his future business deals within the industry or mess up his monthly checks. Somebody from Uptown Records then booked the studio session for Sean, and everybody came there for Pac.
My recollection of the story was I was shooting a video the second half of Warning, and I heard my man was up in the studio doing a Junior Mafia section. So I got off at the reception area and I saw Andre and Little Sean.
People have accused Puff of knowing about the plan of Pac getting robbed. And to this day, there's no real explanation on why he wasn't on the same floor as the members of his label, meaning Biggie, Lil Cease, Lil Kim, and Junior Mafia. We only heard from Puffy's ex-bodyguard Gene Deal that he was spying on them, but not how he learned about Tupac's planned studio session with Little Sean. Was it just coincidence, or was he informed by Jimmy Henchman and the Uptown staff? The studio session was planned days in advance in Tupac's name, as if he had requested the session, but Pac was only informed about it the day the shooting happened, after Jimmy Henchman called him while he was recording with mixtape DJ Ron G. So everyone who waited for Tupac knew more about the plan than Pac himself. He had a weird feeling about this. His relationship with Haitian Jack just turned sour, and now his associate wants him on a song. Stretch and Pac both thought that something was going to happen, but not to this extent. Pac wanted to charge him because he had a feeling that they were just using him. He said, "Alright, you give me the 7 G's and I'll do the song." Jimmy then responded, "I got the money, come." So he agreed and told Pac that it was to take place at the Quad Studios, which is in Times Square. Pac was facing prison time, beefing with gangsters, and burning through money on criminal defense lawyers. So he needed those $7,000 badly. He knew that something was fishy about it, but he had no other choice. So he headed to the Quad Studios to make what he hoped would be an easy $7,000. Pac then stopped off to get some weeds, jumped back in the car, but then got lost. It took him way too long to get there. Jimmy Henchman then paged him again, wondering why he's taking so long. "Where you at? Why you ain't coming?" And Pac was like, "I'm coming, man, hold on." Tupac then called Jimmy Henchman back to ask for directions, and Jimmy then said, "I don't have the money." To which Pac replied, "If you don't have the money, I'm not coming." Jimmy Henchman then hung up the phone. Arguing about money with Jimmy Henchman was not a good idea, but Tupac was reckless, acting out of desperation, as he needed the money to pay his bills and fees. But he wasn't about to let himself get ripped off. Jimmy had earned a rep for robbing and drug dealing. He had faced charges ranging from weapons possession to second-degree murder, but tried to get into the music business by representing rappers like Lil Sean. And Jimmy asked Pac to help him out with his label Henchman, so that he could start a new life and go legit. Pac was too arrogant and cocky for him. Arguing about $7,000 and talking trash about his friend Haitian Jack were some of the reasons why Jimmy wanted to discipline him. According to Dexter Isaac, who confessed to being one of the 3 people who robbed Pac, he got the green light from Jimmy Henchman after he was cussed out by Pac on the phone. Pac allegedly called Jimmy Henchman a sucker, B-A-N-word, punk mother F, and a bunch of other things on the phone. Pac never explained why Jimmy hung up the phone on him, so that could be an explanation. Jimmy felt disrespected, and according to Dexter Isaac, that's the exact moment when he gave the green light. Dexter Isaac had just returned to his apartment, which was a crack house on South Oxford Avenue in Brooklyn, after hustling in North Carolina, where he was transporting and selling drugs. He got a call from a man whose real name he doesn't want to reveal. He just called him Paulie. And according to Dexter, he got a strong Jamaican accent and is also close to Jimmy Henchman. He was the one who got called by Jimmy Henchman after Tupac cussed him out on the phone, and the one who went and got in touch with Dexter Isaac to get the job done. Dexter answered the phone. "What's up, rude boy? Are you in New York, my dude?" Paulie asked as soon as he heard Dexter's voice. "Yeah, I'm in town. I just got back in." Paulie let out a huge sigh of relief. "Star, me need to chat to you right away," Paulie said in his thick Jamaican accent. "Come by the spot on South Oxford in Clinton Hill. We'll talk then," Dexter replied. "Aight, me soon come," Paulie said before hanging up the phone. 15 minutes later, Paulie pulled up in his Lexus LS 400 with a man named Fat Cat. Before Dexter even settled in the back seat, Paulie goes in. "Jimmy needs you to do a job for him. He wants you to rob rapper Tupac Shakur," he said. "Teach him a lesson about respect." "Why?" Dexter asked. Jimmy made a deal with Tupac to lay down a track with Lil Sean, one of Jimmy's artists. So it happened. Jimmy agreed to pay Tupac $7,000 for making the guest appearance, but he wanted to give him a check. Tupac wanted cash and Jimmy refused. After Jimmy refused, Tupac started calling him all kinds of hoes and P's and B's. He told Jimmy, "You New York B's better have my effing cash when I get there." This is also similar to what lead detective Greg Kading said about the motives. Pac was quote-unquote running his mouth about getting paid and kind of being demanding. They didn't go there to kill him, obviously. They could have killed him if that was their intention. They beat him to discipline him. He suggested that Jimmy Henchman had coordinated the ambush to show Tupac who was boss. Dexter knew that after hearing an earful of disrespect like that Jimmy was about to blow a gasket. He thought Tupac should have known better than to disrespect Jimmy like that, to talk so recklessly. Everybody knew Tupac had a big mouth, but now he had seriously upset Jimmy. And Jimmy is known for being cold-blooded. There are stories of him shooting a man named Shoe Shine for trying to rob him. Jimmy was Dexter's friend, and they had mad love for each other. Lil Sean, on the other hand, was nothing to him but a coward and woman beater. "So what's in it for me, Paulie?" Dexter asked. "According to Jimmy, you keep all the jewelry from the robbery, except for the biggest diamond ring. Jimmy wants that as a souvenir, as a gift for his fiancée, Cynthia Reed. He wants to put the stone in a new setting. Plus, he'll give you another $2,500 to pay your peoples for helping you." Paulie then ran down a list of the exact jewelry that Pac would be wearing and estimated the value of each piece. When Dexter asked him how he knew all this, he said Haitian Jack had taken Tupac to the Diamond District on the 47th Street, where he bought all his jewelry. The place is called Tito's Jewelry. So Jack told them everything. Haitian Jack and Tupac used to hang out together all the time, before they caught that case at the Parker Meridian Hotel in the city. Haitian Jack was real flashy, a ladies' man, but also a well-known hustler in Brooklyn. He robbed drug dealers, rappers, and music executives. Tupac was mesmerized by Jack's flash and his jewelry, so he wanted to get himself some of the same. That's how Haitian Jack knew all the prices of every piece he bought. "The big ring is worth $35,000, Paulie said. "The little ring is worth $20. Tupac had a Rolex watch with diamonds all over it that Haitian Jack had gifted him. It was worth more than $20,000. He also had a gold chain and bracelets. Dexter didn't really care who it was. The fact that Pac was a rapper even increased his interest in robbing him, as he thought that rappers are known to wear expensive jewelry. The job was a no-brainer to him. His friends Spunk and JD were upstairs in the spot. Dexter went to them and said, "I've got a mission for us. We're going up into the city to rob Tupac." "Are you for real?" Spunk asked. "As real as a heart attack, my dude," Dexter said. "Let's do this then." both Spunk and JD said. They were both very loyal and trusted Dexter with their lives. They knew he would never ask them to do anything that he wasn't willing to do himself. Dexter was the boss of that little crew. He had taken these dudes off the streets when they were way down and out. Now they were sober, going out of town with him, making money and meeting lots of girls. Thanks to Dexter, they had cars to drive and they stayed clean with all the latest clothes. Dexter handed JD a 45 and Spunk a 9mm. He himself got a 9mm as well. And they jumped in the MPV. They slipped the guns into the stash box and drove off. Paulie was leading the way into the city, so his Lexus was in front of Dexter's MPV. They parked near the studio, got their guns out, walked around the corner and sat down inside a 24-hour Sbarro restaurant across the street from the Quad's recording studio. Paulie called Jimmy on his cell when they arrived. Dex wants to holler at you before he does the job. Come upstairs but leave everyone else in the lobby, Jimmy replied. Paulie and Dexter crossed the street and entered the building. The lobby was shaped like a reverse L. When Dexter stepped into the building, the first thing he noticed was a vacant desk and a chair for a security guard. They went around the corner to the elevator and pushed a button. It was a narrow elevator that ascended slowly, floor after floor. When they got off the elevator, Jimmy was right there waiting for them. But he also said that he saw Biggie sitting on a sofa talking to Lil Cease by the window, even though they were supposed to be upstairs on a different floor. Lil Cease said that he didn't even know Puffy was in the same building, but according to Dexter, they were all in the same room, because Puffy was standing down to his left talking to his mentor, Andre Harrell. Dexter also saw Lil Sean behind the glass booth and wondered why they were all here. How many people know what's about to go down? Dexter asked. He knows, Jimmy replied, nodding his head in Puffy's direction. Puffy looked Dexter dead in the eye, and that's when Dexter knew that he was involved. What Paulie told me, is that the real? Yeah, it's all official, Jimmy stressed. But I don't want y'all to kill him. Just rough him up and take his ish. After receiving the instructions, Jimmy hurried them back into the elevator because he didn't want too many people getting a good look at them. Before they left, Jimmy said, I'll call y'all in the cell when he's on the way. Wait outside the studio until then. As him and Paulie returned to the restaurant across the street, Dexter studied the layout of the building and the streets. Traffic was light and there was very little foot traffic on this block because it was late and all of the stores were closed. After everything was planned and set up and the robbers arrived at the building, Pac got called a third time by Jimmy Hinchman, telling him that he's going to call the CEO of the record label Uptown Entertainment, Andre Harrell, and make sure that he gets the money. But Andre Harrell was in that building the whole time, according to Little Sean. Jimmy Henchman lied about calling him, according to Dexter Isaac, as Andre was already there waiting for hours. So the whole I don't got the money thing was not only a lie, but it was also done to stall time. Because Jimmy all of a sudden also promised that he's going to give him the money out of his own pocket. Jimmy was the one who was supposed to pay him anyway. That's why he said, I don't have the money. But now all of a sudden he has $7,000 in his pockets. Pac only cared about getting the money, so he said, alright, I'm on my way. Tupac headed to the studio just after midnight. People have waited for him for hours. About 10 minutes after Dexter Isaac came out of the Quad Studios, he got a call from Jimmy informing him about Tupac's arrival. Tupac will be here in 15 minutes. He's got a couple of dudes with him. Alright, we're ready, Dexter replied. When he ended the call, he began formulating their strategy. Spunk, I need you to chill in the lobby and act like you're the security guard. When they come inside the lobby, me and JD will come from behind and get him right there. Jimmy doesn't want him shot. He just wants to teach him a lesson. So now it's November 30th, 12:16 a.m. Tupac, along with his manager Freddie Moore, his brother-in-law Zay Turner, and his best friend Big Stretch arrived at the Quad Studios. They were a few hours late, so they were a little bit in a rush. A few moments later, Jimmy called Dexter again, letting him know that Pac and his entourage were in the garage around the corner, parking their car, and that Dexter will be able to see them walking around the corner at any minute. All this up-to-date information led Dexter to believe that Jimmy had someone in Pac's camp who was feeding him information. The group left their car in the parking garage at 148 West 48th Street. then walked a short distance around the corner to the studio on 7th Avenue. Dexter saw Tupac walking down the street, arms swinging back and forth. 9 minutes later at 12:25 a.m., Pac and his group arrived in front of the building. Little C's and Chico Del Vec from Biggie's group Junior Mafia were standing on a small terrace on the 10th floor of the Quad Studio building, overlooking 38th Street. They were taking a little break from a recording session and went out for a smoke, looking who's passing by and dumping cups of water on people. They saw Tupac and his group in front of the building and screamed down to say hello.
Yo, and I'm yelling like, yo, Pop. I said, yo, what up? Where you going?
They both loved and looked up to Tupac, welcomed him every time he visited Brooklyn. C's recognized Pac by his bandana, told him to come up and hang out with them on the 10th floor, where Biggie, Little C's, DJ Clark Kent, Lance on Rivera, and the remaining...
Yeah, man, to be continued. We'll continue tomorrow night with this one. Big up everybody, don't know.